Good morning or good afternoon if you are watching this in the future. We're joined today by Chloe Smith from 48Creates. Really excited to have Chloe along. Just a very brief introduction. Chloe is a former Ravensbourne student, graduated from graphics design, and has now forged a successful career within her own right, and as such has very kindly agreed to come back this morning to be able to speak to us, tell us a little bit about the work that she has done, how she's gone about creating all of the work that she's been a part of, and to offer advice and guidance and support in all things CV, employability and careers. So Chloe, over to you. Thanks so much.
Hi, that was quite the introduction. Thank you for that. I graduated from Ravensbourne in 2014 now, so quite a while ago, almost six years ago now. And Ben asked me to come and talk to you guys about CVs and how we can offer you some support and guidance on how to improve them, what to do, what not to do. So I've just put together a brief presentation that I will quickly run through, if that's okay, Ben. Hello. So I'm here as part of your CV competition, and hopefully I can give you some words of wisdom. A little bit about myself. So who am I and why am I talking to you guys today? So I graduated from Ravensbourne in 2014. I also founded the company 48Creates in 2014. We are a London-based creative agency, and we started off as small businesses. We now work with multinational clients across the world, and we currently employ 6 full-time creatives, so that's fun. And we've been working sort of throughout lockdown, trying to improve things and going through the motions with a business and making sure that we can survive, and luckily we have, which is lovely. And this is who we are in 2020. We're a team of creatives. We've worked with some famous logos that you can see there. So I think on the whole that makes me quite qualified to talk to you guys about CVs and the likes. But why should you care about what I'm saying? Well, I've written CVs before, quite badly, I will admit, because never technically had a job, but I do look at a lot of CVs. I read hundreds of CVs every time we put out a job application. And I've just put together 3 quick tips for you guys. And disclaimer, they're my personal opinions, and through experience I have, other opinions are available. You can find them widely on the internet. So, I'll just sort of quickly run through some of the suggestions that I've got for your CVs. Don't be too clever is one of my first ones. So brownie points for anyone who delivers a CV carved from a tree trunk and set in glass. Don't do that. A4 PDF is fine. Make sure you show personality, but not at the detriment of your content. It won't hide the fact that you don't have any experience. And be sure to hyperlink your portfolio. I mean, we're a small business, so when we receive CVs, we receive anywhere between sort of 100 to 200 applicants per job that we put up, especially for junior graphic designers. It's a very competitive industry. And we, in general, it will be me looking at the CVs, or someone would have pre-screened them, and then I'll get the CVs that are sort of suitable for the job. And we look pretty much for ease of use with the CV. So don't try and do any fancy formats that won't show up on a screen. We're looking for key information, and the hyperlink to the portfolios is key. You don't know how many times I've had to sit there and type ridiculous long either LinkedIn profiles out or websites because someone hasn't hyperlinked the CV.
Very quickly, sorry, you just mentioned a point there about screening, the screening process. I presume that's with a view to perhaps getting rid of a whole bunch of so that you can whittle down sort of candidates you're interested in. So what is the whittling down process that happens?
So generally we would look for the fact that they've read the application. So we get a lot of CVs where people are either just applying for jobs randomly, and in the hope that they'll sort of get seen, or they'll be within the creative industry but not really applying for the role that we're looking for. So that's the first thing we look at, whether they've done something relevant to the job.
Yeah.
We'll also look for experience, which is a big one. I know that getting experience can sometimes be tough, especially in the graphic design sort of industry. Anyone with a Mac nowadays feels like they're a graphic designer, so I know it can be tough. But we do look for that studio experience, whether that be self-initiated projects or projects with a client or within a studio. We would always look for that experience. The only issue is, or one of the main issues you'll find when you leave university, is that you've got a degree, which is great, but you haven't got the experience, and working within a studio or working within a studio environment is very different to working for university.
Yeah.
So we tend to look for the high level stuff. Have you got the skills that we require? Have you got any experience in that? And then finally, can you prove that with your portfolio?
Yeah, so that kind of lets you into the club of the people that
we generally look for a cover letter,
Yeah.
And just to make sure that they've at least said hi and mentioned sort of 48Creates in the thing, even if it's sort of a copy and paste job, which I don't blame people for doing, because like there are hundreds of sort of ways that you can do cover letters, and writing one individually for each company is not necessarily going to be the best use of someone's time.
Yeah.
But I would recommend it if you can. So we just kind of look to see that they've read the advert essentially, and then so someone will go through and tick the ones that are a maybe, and then I get all the maybes, and then that's my opportunity to go through and sort of really look at the content in the CV.
Nice.
But yeah, so definitely do your research in terms of know the company, at least read the About Us, and then obviously from there you can kind of explore what we do. Most creative agencies do the same thing, so
yeah,
once you've read one website, you've probably read them all, to be honest. But it's definitely advisable to research the company a little bit before you then apply for the job that you're gonna potentially be working at for maybe like a year or two. Especially if you're looking for a certain culture as well. I think if you're looking to go into a small business, it's a completely different culture than if you go into like a larger business.
Yeah.
And having worked on both sides of the coin, I guess, a little bit when I was sort of first starting out working for both corporate and small businesses, you'll find that it's a very different environment to work in. So maybe like tailor your CV to suit the company that you're applying for.
Yeah.
Moving on. Save the life story for your mum. Honestly, when I'm reading CVs, I don't read the interests bit of a CV. Now, your personality should shine through when you have your sort of first interview, and you can tell me all about your interests then, and that's lovely, and we'll go deeper into your personality, what you get up to outside of work, all of that stuff. It's just a waste of space on a CV, especially when you just use a massive chunk of your CV and it almost feels like content filler. I know that you're outgoing. I know that you're a team player. I know that you work well with others. I know that you also work well alone. Everyone does. Everyone sort of writes the same thing in those bits. I would say it's better to include a little bit more experience in that section instead, because you do get to find out about people when you give them that initial interview. So we do 2 interviews for 48Creates. The first one's like a gut check to see if they'll get on with the team, sort of like you assess their sort of the way they are, the way they talk on camera. A lot of what we've been doing recently has been over camera. So you just assess their ability to talk to you, have a conversation. I guess that's quite important in 48Creates, that you've got a bit of a personality, and you can sort of be thrown into situations and kind of talk your way out of them, if you like. So yeah, I would say leave that off your CV. I don't think it is as important. Again, this is my personal opinion. Other companies may love that and they may sort of lap that up. But I think if you're tailoring it for a small business, certainly we don't have time to look at this sort of stuff. Just make sure your personality shines through on that first interview. Keep it brief. You don't need to write War and Peace on your cover letters. Again, we do appreciate them, but we're not going to read 2 pages of writing about your life and your history and all of that stuff and why you got into the industry and anything that's sort of overselling yourself. Like a few lines that just tells us you've read the job and you're willing to sort of put in the effort, or you've done something cool that relates to a project that we've done. We don't need pages and pages of text, essentially.
Quickly, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this. There was somebody that spoke during the week that said they've had cover letters in the past where they've been able to present concepts and ideas for things that they might want to do when working with the organisation. So not only have they've done the research on it, but they've actually then said, I'd be keen to work more on projects like, I don't know, sustainability within the fashion industry or something like that. Being able to kind of project a sort of way of working, regardless of whether it ties in with what the company would actually do, but sort of recognizing that would be something that they would potentially do. Would you be interested to hear those thoughts, or would you prefer it to just be kept quite simple?
I think from a pure sort of screening level CV situation, I would prefer it to be kept simple. But again, when you have that first interview, that's really your opportunity to sort of say all of this stuff and really get across that you've done your research. Hey, I really like that project. Can you tell me more about it? I'd love to learn the process behind it. Here's what I would do differently, or here's what I would contribute to that. That would be fantastic. That probably would make me take note. But yeah, I think for the CV, just because you do receive so many, you're sort of whittling down as many as you can to sort of fit that minimum criteria, if you like. And then you're giving everyone an interview, like a 15-minute sort of gut check interview. And that's when you can really shine and show your personality.
And that when you are whittling down those CVs, if there are people that are watching this video now, what would, if they haven't got that industry experience, being able to perhaps demonstrate their own project briefs that they've done off their own back, or people that they've collaborated with, even if they're on smaller projects, would that be the kind of demonstrating initiative and being proactive in that sense to actually get stuff on there that would be relevant? Would that be the kind of thing that?
Yeah, exactly. Our most recent hire, Alex, actually did a self-initiated project, and that's what really stood out for us. I think he had a little bit of agency experience, not tons, but it was his personality and the fact that he'd gone on and done this initiative, this initial brief by himself. He's not listening to me, so that's fine. So that's what really stood out for us as an organisation, because actually he'd gone, I was doing one thing in my career, I wanted to make a change, so now I've made this change, I'm going to prove that I'm actually into it. And he went on and took courses online and stuff, so he wasn't formally trained as what he's doing now, but what really shone through is the fact that he just took the initiative to do something about what he wanted to do with life. And that's always really nice. So yeah, I know it's very hard to get experience, but I would say one of the things, or one of the techniques that I used when I was trying to get work through the door, especially when I was at university, because I started interning quite early. So normally you would do that after you've graduated. I started interning in sort of year 1.5, 2. And I would just put my wares out, make sure that they were knowing that I was just trying to build my portfolio. any companies, any small companies. So you've got lots and lots and lots of small businesses on places like Etsy. Just reach out to them, just be like, hey, would you mind if I did this for you? I'd really like to tidy up the logo. I'd really love to sort of explore the packaging with you. It doesn't matter if you don't use it. I'd really like to use it on my portfolio, if that's okay. Most people are receptive. Sometimes you'll even sort of get paid for that work, or they'll come back to you in the future, or they'll pass you on to a friend that's looking for some graphic design.
Which is cool. I mean, that's almost more like a bonus because it's
exactly. So I'd say there's more than one way to get experience. It doesn't have to be the formal route of going in, getting a job, getting an internship. Although I did do that as well. I did several internships in sort of, I think it was a magazine company and a fashion-based company. And I just think that if I were to go for a job, they'd focus on that a lot more than perhaps the degree or the level of degree that I achieved. It's good, you tick a box, don't get me wrong, but again, they're looking for that experience, for that self-initiation, or how you do things, what's your process, how you think, how do you get to that outcome, and what does that critical sort of path look like when you're doing a project. And I think that's a lot more important than just sort of going down the traditional route of internships. And I think there's a lot to be said for working with clients and on your own rather than taking instruction from a superior, for example. I think you'll learn a lot as well when you're doing stuff, because you have to make mistakes. Unfortunately, you have to royally F up to be able to then come back from that. And come back a better designer, come back a better whatever you're doing in your career. You have to make those mistakes, and if you're making them whilst you're at uni, then I'd say that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
There's a couple of questions that have come through actually. Thank you for sending these through. Just very quickly, should we include an image of ourselves on our CV?
Interesting. I mean, you can. I don't think it'll be a bad thing. Generally, people put their LinkedIn profiles, and if I want to look at someone's face, which generally I'm not too interested in, but I guess it wouldn't be a bad thing. I normally go to people's LinkedIns. I normally check out their LinkedIns. Why not? Yeah.
Ace. And secondly, when you are getting down to the last few candidates, and it's the kind of interview process. I appreciate this is slightly off topic from CVs, but I think it is relevant. Do you ask the people you hire to do work tests first to see how they work?
Sometimes we will set a brief. So that's normally in the graphic design side of things. We don't generally do it for web design or marketing, because the project briefs are so varied and so long. Normally for graphic design, we would set a logo brief and a layout brief. So we would ask the person to go onto our blog, find a blog that they like and lay it out, and then send us the InDesign file. Basically, all I'm looking for there is use of grids, use of the program, whether they've used like the baseline grid, whether they've got the column structure and all of that stuff, and whether they've got the pages, the master pages set up correctly. And then you can get a really good feel for people's level of work when you do stuff like that. And then the logo stuff is more the process. So I really don't care about the outcome. It's more, how did you get there? Yeah. How did you make those decisions that you made? Show me that. Show me the creative work behind that. And it was always so frustrating in university when they'd be like, show your work, and you'd be like, I don't want to, but it's so important.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do just get there, but actually there'll be a series of things like, I don't know, you researched this, you did this, you went onto this website, you did this. Just put every sort of bit of notation down in there, whether it be sketchy or whether it be actually like just research. Yeah. If you got to that outcome, I want to see how you got there, not necessarily how it came out, because that stuff you can refine.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is that you, in presenting a CV, and then, you know, as you say, going onto LinkedIn, or if somebody has put on their professional Instagram or website, that person can actually almost sidestep that work slightly by actually demonstrating that within their body of work. So if they go on to Instagram and they show a project from start to finish in one post, and you just slide along. And
exactly. Yeah, you can definitely do stuff like that. I think what I look for on a portfolio generally is sort of variety of work. So I'm always a bit hesitant. It doesn't mean they won't get an interview, because I always give people chances to maybe show work that they have upon their portfolio. And I wouldn't discount someone based on it, but if someone's got a lot of like a real sort of breadth of work on their portfolio, or like you said, on their Instagram, it kind of doesn't matter about the outcome, or we're just looking for that process, that creative thinking.
Yeah.
And if you show that, if you show the sort of, I did this, show your sketches, it doesn't matter how bad they are as long as you've got them, and then show the final outcome, then I think that's definitely a positive. Use mock-ups where you can as well, because it's extremely important for clients to be able to visualize the work that you're doing. So if you can use mock-ups, there's a ton that are free on various portals. And I think one of the things you kind of look at work when you're a student, I certainly did, and I wasn't aware of mock-ups. I'm like, how did they do that? How did they make that look so fancy?
Yeah.
And actually it's just a bunch of mock-ups, but it makes your work look 10 times better. And not that your work's not already good, I assume, but if you're showing that process, that extra step of mocking it up, then you already get a feel for, actually this person knows that it needs to be presented in a certain way, it needs to go to a client in a certain format. So always try and show your work. And so if you've got scans, if you've got photographs, if you've got anything like that, just show your work in and show how you got to the conclusion you got to, because the outcome doesn't matter as much as just that process you go through.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Thank you.
No problem. I mean, I've forgotten where I'm on my presentation, but we'll crack on. So focus on the key things. So skills, experience, and a friendly cover layout. That's kind of the three things that we look for. And again, it touches on the fact that I know it's really difficult to get experience. Internships, I guess they're super competitive. And you can either have a really good experience for an intern, or you can have a really bad experience, and that goes both ways as well. So generally interns are you have to think of yourself as a bit of a nuisance as an intern. So you are coming in and you are asking loads of questions on top of this person who's got a really busy schedule, who's got like loads of stuff to do. So when you are on an internship, just try and be as helpful as possible, really, and try and use some initiative, because if you can use that initiative, if you do have that naturally, then that's a bonus as well.
Nice.
Yeah. And thirdly, focus on experience. So I guess we just spoke about this earlier, but it's the degree is great, don't get me wrong, it's a tick in the box. It's so different working in the industry than it is being a student, and I would always advise anyone to just try and get that experience of working with a real life client, even if you have to do it for free. I know some people aren't financially able to do that. Even if you charge a minimal amount for your time, get that experience under your belt, because I guarantee you'll have a short sharp shock when it comes to working with clients, and how different it is from delivering work at university. University is often great for feedback, it's great to make mistakes and stuff like that, but clients don't see it that way. Clients will never see it that way. Clients will see it as, this is my project, this is like super personal to me. You have to understand that they may have been working at this business for the last couple of months, or whatever situation they're in, and they're extremely precious over it. You don't get as much freedom, you certainly don't get as much time. And that's all very important when it comes to trying to get either a job or an internship. You need to show that experience, because if you don't have that, then you're going to walk into a studio and you're going to be a bit like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? And yeah, I would say that's my biggest tip. And yeah, sort of look on Etsy, look on places where small businesses generally gather, even eBay and stuff like that, and just reach out and ask if you can do some work for them. because I guarantee you'll get at least one bite from, I don't know, send 10 emails out and you'll get one bite, because people, whilst they value good design, when they're small, they also want to save the pennies. So
Yeah,
it can be a really good source of experience for people.
yeah, really good point. Really, really good point. Couple more questions have actually come through. How many people do you usually get through once the screening process has taken place? How many do you actually then sort of sit down and have a look at?
It ranges, because we use Indeed a lot for our hiring, and sometimes you'll get a really good batch and sometimes you'll get a really poor batch. There's been situations where I've whittled it down from sort of hundreds to maybe like 3 or 4, which has just been crazy. But then you'll get situations where our most recent hire was web designer, and we had sort of over 150 applicants within the first few hours. It was crazy, and I think that's more to do with the pandemic than anything. Yeah. And we had some really high level CVs in there, really good sort of strong bodies of work. And I think we ended up interviewing about 15 or 20. And obviously that takes a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end, because you actually get to see the person behind the CV. I think that's very important as well. Don't try and hide behind your CV if you're doing.
You will get found out.
You'll get found out pretty quickly, yeah.
And the second one is actually correlated slightly to what you've just said, actually, which is, do you believe that if you have gotten through the screening process, that your chances are greater within the interview? And I guess, I mean, that's going to be dependent on, you know, one of the jobs you said was 3 or 4 people were selected. The other one was perhaps.
Yeah, I also think as well, certainly with smaller businesses, and so we work with a lot of smaller businesses who hire, and they've had similar experience to me. You're kind of the CV is the gateway, but the next part is you. So you kind of, with the CV, you are ticking boxes and you are saying, right, you've got these skills, but it kind of goes to the side a little bit once you get through the door and get through the interview process. And not everyone does the interview process the same as me, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything that I do a screening process and then do an interview. But yeah, I would say it's sort of, you're in with a good chance if you get an interview.
Yeah, and then you don't necessarily have the job. You know, I've walked into interviews in the past where I know that I've been up against an awful lot of people, and it's been whittled down to maybe 4 or 5. To a certain extent, it's yours to lose. You know, you've been put in the hat as a contender. You know, being seen as somebody that has desirable attributes for this job. It's now about being able to follow through with that and be the person that they've imagined you to be. That being where you were selected.
Yeah, it's definitely like I won't say personality, because everyone's got a different personality. It's more of a feeling you get about people and whether they would mould. You've got to also think about the team as well in general, because when you bring someone new in, it changes the dynamic. Will they fit in with the dynamic of the team? Will they thrive in an environment like a sort of culture that you've created?
Do you think for you that's quite a big deal, because the sort of close-knit team that you are, you know, you're not a company of like, say, 400 people.
You're definitely not just a cog.
Yeah.
You do make a big difference when you go through the door. So if you do make a huge difference actually to the company, that especially if it's small like ours, you make a huge difference to the people around you and the company itself. So it is a very important decision for anyone hiring, especially in my position, to be able to sort of trust that person. We are 6.5 years old, but that trust can be easily broken with clients. And they can.
What's amazing is that, I mean, you've touched on a couple of points, which is really quite interesting, is the fact that when people are looking for these experiences, and as you've said, those are that's one of the key things, if not the most important thing for people's CVs when you're looking at them. Being actually able to work with a smaller organization and become a more important part of that team rather than just a cog will actually help develop somebody's experience perhaps a lot quicker, and also allow them to experience a whole bunch of jobs that not necessarily within their job role, but because there is nobody else to do that, you kind of have to do it, otherwise the business doesn't keep going. So you learn so much more, so much quicker.
Yeah, I would say if you're being, it depends on your career aspirations. I think with a company like 48Creates, it is kind of so it's sort of slow progression in terms of our clients, and where we're only just starting to get noticed by clients, and that's been a sort of personal achievement for us. And that's because of the people we've hired. So you have a direct impact on that company, the future of the company. And I would say if you're the kind of person that just wants to get their job done, leave it at the door and go home, then maybe a small company isn't something that you should consider, because it's a lot more important that you will work on multiple projects. You'll be sort of be like, hey, have you got 10 minutes? I really need to do this. Hey, have you got sort of an hour tomorrow, because a client really needs this tomorrow. And I think it's a very different environment. So I think you should also be aware of your own limitations, and whether you thrive in an environment where you're constantly learning, or whether actually you just want to get on with your job and sort of not stay where you are, but that's the wrong word. But
with the place that you're.
Yeah. So I would definitely consider for yourself and your own sanity where you want to go, because generally I think in a bigger company you do get a little bit lost.
Yeah.
But I'm biased.
It's some of the questions are not related to CVs, but actually they're really good.
We'll just have a chat.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is what some of the sessions have been, which have actually been, it's been really insightful, actually, some of the things that you said. So I'm more than happy to keep it going in this format. If someone gets an offer and they've said yes to it, but perhaps then gets offered another job, and that person then declines. So let's say you've done your interview process, you reach out to somebody and say you've got the job, and they come back to you and say, actually, I found another position, and they politely decline. They do it in the right way. Perhaps if they came back to you in, say, a year or so's time and were applying for another position that you were hosting, would you would the previous experience count on that person in a negative way?
It's a good question. It's never happened to me. I think no, because everyone's got to find their own way in life, right? So it's not, I wouldn't hold it against someone if they found a better fit for them and then actually they discovered that, because corporate jobs, maybe it was for a situation, if you've got a corporate job in a smaller company and you go for the corporate job, they tend to be more safe, they tend to be more stable. So I would never sort of hold it against someone if they wanted to choose a more stable option or something that is a bit more known.
Yeah.
That for me is just being human. If they then came back and was like, actually, I've done that now, can I maybe give that a go? I'd be like, yeah, come and tell me all you've learned from that company and what you hated about it, because we'll never do that. Yeah. So no, I don't think it would stand against them. I think if anything, I would just try and use their knowledge.
Yeah. As you say, that is quite a specific question, but I think your response actually demonstrates, in going about it the right way,
Yeah, I think they'd be lucky to be remembered as well. Like if I've remembered
and said, "Oh, you remember I turned down this job last year?"
If you didn't mention it, I probably wouldn't remember. Because it would be a case of, okay, no worries, thanks, move on. Like I'm not gonna be offended. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. But yeah, just be a decent human being and just politely decline. And because you never know when you're gonna come back to someone like that. I would say that in any job.
100%.
Always leave things.
Say that with any job and with any
relationship. Just leave it amicably.
Yeah, just make sure that, you know, the people that you engage with, whether it be an internship, whether it be literally just sending a CV or going into an interview,
Yeah.
some people are going to say no. In fact, a lot of people are going to say no. You're going to get way more no's than you are going to get yeses. And
Absolutely, yeah.
being able to acknowledge the fact that actually most of the time it's got nothing to do with you. It's
nothing to do with it. Will be nothing to do with you. It will be some other circumstance. It will be some, like they clicked better on the interview, they were a better fit for the team. There's so many variables that go into hiring someone, and like I've made mistakes in hiring people, and I think, oh damn it, I wish I'd chosen the other person. Just be a nice human being.
Yeah.
That's all I ask for, really. Just be a decent human being. Want to get on in life, and I mean, for a small business, hiring is a big decision. So just keep that in mind when you are sort of reaching out to them, or when you do get a job with them. It's always a big decision, because if you're working closely with the founder, for example, my first hire worked very closely with me, and giving someone the trust to do that when you've built something so delicately, it's going to be a bit odd at first, and they're going to sort of hover over you, and they're going to be like a bit sort of like nervous about giving you that work and giving, because technically I can do it myself. I'm trained to do this myself. So I would say, yeah, just be aware of the dynamics in a small company. And I think small companies are great. I love what I do, and I would never do anything else. But yeah, I think align your personality to the company that you're looking to sort of get a foot in the door with, because otherwise you'll just be miserable. And work is 80% of what you do, so don't be miserable in your job. I would hate for anyone to be miserable working at 48Creates. Honestly, that would make me very miserable, but hopefully everyone's very happy.
I'm sure they are.
They've all just got their headphones in and ignoring me. Are you happy? Yes.
That was a quick response. That's good.
We discussed this before. Like, put your headphones in. Don't say a word. I'm joking. They just listen to music.
Amazing. Next slide.
I think that was it. That was just
amazing.
A thanks for listening. Yeah, that was just, yeah. So good luck. Make sure you just be decent human beings, guys, and like level with people. We're not monsters when we're hiring. We know everyone's human, and things don't always, work out, but that's okay.
Nice. Yeah. No, that's a nice.
I have to leave you some passing thoughts.
I was going to say it's more like a philosophy on life, not just a philosophy on work.
Yeah, just be a good human being, and then you'll get far in life. Generally, I would definitely say as well, if anyone's got a little sort of like, even just like a little inkling about starting on their own, I explore that, because honestly, it will be the toughest thing that you've ever done in your life, but it'll be the most rewarding as well. So even if it's just like a little itch you have to scratch, give it a go, because you'll learn so much.
And also doing that whilst you're at university as well, whilst you've got the support of tutors, your peer group as well, that you may well want to start, tapping into. If you haven't got a skill set that perhaps a friend of yours does, and you want to start up, or knowing that as well, that you've got the student loan support, like that.
Yes, make the mistakes whilst you've got the opportunity, because when you start getting into the real world and you start getting the sort of big dollar, then you really don't have a lot of room for error, and it's harder when you've got a reputation, and when you've got people to pay and payroll and all of that. It all starts getting very complex and very businesslike, and even though I still love what I do, it's very different to what I started out doing.
Yes, you start having conversations with
contractual lawyers and going through NDAs and like
copyright laws and trademarks.
Yeah, you can start going through all of that stuff, and the clients do really look upon you as a sort of expert in your field, and they will ask you random stuff. So even if you don't know how to do it, just say yes and figure it out. Just Google it, because Google is amazing, and most of the stuff that I know is because of Google.
Excellent. There has been just one last question that's come through very quickly. Do you have any advice on how to get ready for work tests? So if somebody is giving you a bit of a task beforehand, what would you I guess you kind of answered that earlier in terms of demonstrating actually the way you
Yeah, just
the end product.
I would be aware of anyone that's asking you to do sort of spec work for free, and make sure that they're not just doing that to gather a bunch of ideas. I have heard horror stories. Just do your research, really. Just make sure that you're looking at all possible avenues, and even if the outcome's not overall creative, it's definitely that journey that you go on to make sure that overall you've come out with a creative solution, even if it's not the best thing you've ever developed, as long as it's there and as long as you're showing everything in your research. And I think that's super important, because if you show a brilliant idea but you don't show where you got it from, then you would always, if it was between two people and someone showed their work and someone didn't, I would always go with the one that showed the work, even if the outcome wasn't as good, because you can work on that.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Yes.
Amazing. Not sure if this was answered before, but what if you don't have much work in your portfolio due to projects not allowing you to put them in? So again, that would be related to, self-starting for yourself, getting your own,
Yeah, do some logos by yourself. Yeah, just literally, I don't know, look around your room and say, right, how can I brand that plant pot better? And just do a brand for that.
I love
your work.
The suggestion that you've made for Etsy, actually, because that is such a good gap. The amount of brands and businesses.
There's so many, and honestly, it's how I started out. I actually started on when I started the company. I was on Etsy selling my wares for sort of £30. Contacting people, see if they wanted anything done, and that was whilst I was at uni, and that was really beneficial because you get to learn a lot about how a client brain works, which is interesting sometimes. So definitely take advantage of those hubs where businesses kind of congregate. Also use the hashtag looking for a pro. I think it's on LinkedIn. And there's lots of opportunities on there. So sometimes people will put up looking for a freelancer, looking for this, looking for that, and then you can start to sort of get the word out then. And I wouldn't expect anything amazing for your first project, and you may even fail catastrophically. That's a bad word. You may even fail. Looking for a pro, that's a good one. Get on Etsy, make sure you're just contacting people, just create a profile, put a sort of, I can do logo designs, I can do this poster stuff, and then just start contacting people. And there's so many businesses on there with such bad design as well. Like they'll use Comic Sans for their logos, and it's like gold honey. And even if you're just presenting that and just being like, hey, look, I thought it would be a really good idea for you to have a look at this. Just give it a go, I would say. I mean, no one's going to say no to free work, right?
No, very true, very true.
And then that all goes into your experience of working with clients. So.
And onwards to successful career. Chloe, really appreciate your time today. Thank you so very much for coming along. It's been really great to hear from you. And for anyone who's on the call at the moment or going to be watching this in the future, please do, get in contact with Chloe. Just let her know that you've watched it and say thank you.
Drop me a text.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely check out the work that 48Creates does as well.
Although our portfolio is definitely not up to date, so sorry about that.
Another piece of advice there at the end. Cool. Good to catch up with you. Take care.
All right. See you later.
Have a good Christmas.
Have a good
Cheers.
You too. Bye.
Bye.